disclaimer, I'm currently at around about 40 minutes right here. This could have its own episode, so I will be as brief as possible in outlining what happened with the Montreal Screwjob, okay? Because it was the event that launched WWF into the next stratosphere, and one of the events that actually started putting nails in WCW's coffin, if you can believe that. So just, bear with me, because this is a lot of information. It's going to take a lot of time to deal with it. So, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, because of the end of the Hell in a Cell match, was supposed to meet for the WWF Championship. At this point, after their playful little get out of my ring a year and a half earlier, Bret and Shawn were hitting each other. They absolutely detested each other at this point. Bret was upset with Shawn Michaels because he implied that Bret had a lot of, quote, sunny days, meaning that he was having an affair with Sunny, which was funny because Shawn Michaels was the one having the affair. Bret was not comfortable about the direction of the product and the more adult-oriented nature, and the fact that Vince McMahon made Shawn Michaels the number one bad guy when Bret was supposed to be the number one bad guy. Shawn was upset that Bret was acting childish backstage. Both men had said that they would refuse to lose to the other one at some point, even though at some point they also said they would. And Shawn said to get his bad guy character over and to make the Hart family loved even more in Europe, he would beat the undefeated in Europe British Bulldog for the European title. That angered Bret. It angered the Bulldog too, and to be fair, it angered a lot of fans too, because, Europe was the British Bulldog's backyard. It was his homeland. They didn't go there that often. Bulldog is still the greatest British professional wrestler in WWF history, WWE history. I don't care what anybody says. So there was that between them. They had a real-life fight in the dressing room where Bret yanked a clump out of Shawn Michaels' hair that Jim Cornette apparently owns, which I wish I was making that up. Shawn cited unsafe working conditions and stormed out, and it was just two guys being petty and childish at this point. Bret, on the other hand, was having problems with Vince McMahon as well, because with WCW kicking WWF's behind in the ratings, Vince couldn't pay Bret his 20-year contract. Now, to be fair to Vince McMahon, he asked Bret to defer some payments to get them over the financial period. Any businessman would do that. Any boss would do that. I have no fault in that. But Bret refused, which Bret also had a right to do. So what happened is Vince said, okay, we either have to renegotiate our contract or you can renegotiate with WCW. So Bret ended up signing a 3-year deal with WCW. However, that was between the Monday Night Raw and the Sunday pay-per-view where Bret signed the WCW contract. So pretty much Vince said, Bret, I want you to lose to Shawn Michaels in Montreal, which, as I mentioned earlier, was the time-honored tradition. And Bret said, no, I have a little bit of creative control on my contract. I'll lose in Detroit. I'll lose to nobody in Canada, and I will not lose to Shawn Michaels, period. So, Shawn Michaels, Gerald Briscoe, Jim Ross, Pat Patterson, Vince McMahon, Jim Cornette, Vince Russo, they all kind of bounced around ideas as to how to get the title off Bret or how to end this match without WCW being able to say that that WWF's champion was leaving. So, now, I'm not saying that Briscoe, Patterson, Ross, Cornette, Russo, Slaughter, etc. were in on the thing, but in the booking meetings, they were throwing every idea they could at it. And it transpired that Vince McMahon had, with a couple of other people, told Bret that this is what was going to happen. We're going to put you in the sharpshooter. Owen and Davey would come down, destroy the match. Triple H would come down, no DQ finish, but you would stand tall at the end of the night. Bret agreed to that, but he did have a little bit in the back of his mind, because he was the son of the legendary Stu Hart, who was a promoter, and so he went to the referee and said, on your children's life, you won't screw me out there. No, I won't do that, Bret. Of course I won't. So, Bret was put in the sharpshooter, and the ref called for the bell. Bret had lost his title, and confusion reigned, and Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels both got up looking at what the hell was going on, and Bret realized that Vince had duped him, spat on him, destroyed all his equipment at ringside. Basically, the office guys locked themselves in an office, and waited for Bret to calm down. Vince went backstage, tried to talk to Bret, tried to tell him what was going on. Listening to a lot of accounts, some people say Vince McMahon went in there to explain himself. Some say he went to gloat, and others actually say, quite honestly, that Vince went up there knowing that Bret was going to beat the out of him, which Bret did. He gave him an uppercut so bad that Vince got a black eye and rolled his ankle. Well, in the aftermath of that, Rick Rude, who was not working on a contract, walked. The British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, Jim Neidhart, they quit on the spot and joined Bret Hart in WCW. Owen Hart was given several weeks off, but was not granted a release. Mick Foley and several others did not show up the next night in protest of a promoter messing with one of the boys, in the words of Jim Cornette. And, you know, it was just a big, big, ugly mess. Bret Hart didn't do anything for the WWF until after his stroke in 2002. And to be honest, him and Shawn Michaels and Vince McMahon have all made amends. And, you know, everybody's fine now. But that event did kind of suck the passion out of Bret. And his run in WCW was not considered a success, even up until his retirement. And the irony of it is several months later, Shawn would also be out of action too. So this kind of served nobody except Vince McMahon and the WWF, and completely screwed over one guy while completely putting a target on the back of another guy. Now, there are misconceptions and theories about the incident. One of the things was that Bret's contract was supposed to expire the next night. But that wasn't true. Bret had another 5 or 6 weeks on his contract left at that point. But at that point, WCW could say, hey, we just signed their champion. Bret has admitted, and Shawn's agreed, that Bret was not going to lose in Canada, but he would have lost anywhere else in the world to anybody else in the world. So Jim Cornette said, throw Shamrock at him, throw Foley at him, throw Austin at him, throw somebody. Let's just get the belt off him. The idea that it was the idea wasn't Shawn Michaels, as it's been implied. Several people have claimed it. Jim Cornette has disputed a suggestion of his own. So basically, but Triple H claims that he told Vince McMahon, if Bret won't do business, we'll do business for Bret. It's very, very believable because McMahon was close to Michaels and Triple H could get in his ear. Vince Russo claims that he told Vince McMahon that the best thing to do, and listened in on a private conversation between Bret Hart and Vince McMahon. However, Jim Cornette, who loves Vince Russo, and I put inverted commas, disputes that version, saying that Russo didn't know what a double cross was, and even if he did, he wasn't talented enough to put a program like this in effect. Cornette actually blames himself a little bit in jest, saying that he suggested to, just throw somebody who Bret would lose to against him. And that's when it happened. One of the things, too, is one of the reasons why Vince tried to do that was because they didn't want Bret Hart, WWF champion, showing up on WCW TV with WWF's championship. Now, remember, Hart would have 6 weeks to go. So it wasn't going to be the next night. So that's bang. Then some people... And I would believe this because Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels seem like the old school type of guys who could kind of do this. Remember, they worked everybody into thinking they hated each other as far back as 1996 when they didn't. But Bret and Shawn staged it, knew what was going on, that way to turn Bret Hart back into a good guy and give Vince McMahon a springboard to become the bad guy that he was going to be. And I think that's a good theory. I don't know if it's true or not. I sincerely doubt it was true, considering all the emotion involved. I think it was basically as it played out. But that would have been a hell of a way to do it. But who knows what happened? Nobody knows. The only people who know exactly what happened are the people involved. Sean Waltman said, and I quote, "I think the Screwjob was so compartmentalized that the guys that were in it don't know who else was involved." So, you can take that for what you will. I kind of agree with it. I think there was something more. I mean, Bret Hart, like I said, was son of a legendary promoter. Vince McMahon was a father figure. It just, there's too many holes in it, and how quickly Bret was accepted back into the fold. I mean, it's just, yeah, I don't know.